Tonight on Primetime, the doctor knocks him dead and then whirls home to battle the medical establishment for the right to restore eyesight with his space-age surgery. But first, it's a reunion of motorheads whose customized cars catch on with the next generation. I'm Gary Papa with stories of renegades. Tonight on Primetime.
It's the prime time of my life, doing what I always dreamed I'd do, feeling free and being me in the prime time of my life.
I live life, and I try to do as much and as many things as I can that are fun to do and are good for other people.
World-famous eye surgeon, up-and-coming nightclub entertainer, author, helicopter pilot. He is living life to the hilt in the elegant heights of the Trump Tower of New York City, saving eyesight in his office suite in the Empire State Building, or knocking him dead in this Atlantic City casino. At age 55, Charles Kelman is doing it his way. But he staked his claim to center stage only after years of struggle and some bitter defeats.
The only thing wrong with doing a show is that it has to end.
His odyssey began here in Philadelphia. It was 1959, and by day, Charles Kelman was a resident doctor at Wills Eye Hospital. However, by night, he was an up-and-coming musician.
There was a great record company in Philadelphia, Chancellor Records, and they had two stars, Frankie Avalon and Fabian, and they had one other who was not yet a star, Kerry Adams. That was me. I was singing under a pseudonym because in those days the medical profession would not have accepted this duality. So I made a recording called Telephone Numbers. They recorded it, and it was pick of the week in 52 cities.
Ooh, I got so many numbers.
4 stars in Cashbox and Billboard. They were fitting me with tuxedos and glitter and glamour, and I said, God, it was so easy. One record and I'm a star. And then a week later, something happened which totally changed the history of music. Chubby Checker came out with a twist, and it killed everything that was on the airwaves, including poor old Kerry Adams.
And do the
Poor old Kerry Adams was buried by the twist. And now, poor, unknown Dr. Kelman had to decide what to do with the rest of his life. He craved a standing ovation. If not in music, then it would have to be in medicine. He was looking for a breakthrough. In 1962, he found it, a freezing technique that worked better than forceps in cataract surgery. But the medical establishment first ignored his findings, and then, on top of that, gave the funds and the glory of publishing the first results to the very doctor who had originally dismissed Kelman's theories. But Dr. Kelman counterpunched with an even better idea that landed him the largest research grant in the history of ophthalmology.
And that, after a few years of misery and skepticism, became the standard way.
The standard way, with Dr. Kelman getting the credit. Not only for the freezing techniques, but also for the revolutionary methods of cataract removal using ultrasound. In addition, he has pioneered improved methods of lens implantation and is the inventor of the high-tech surgical instruments that are now being used around the world. Each advance was resisted by the medical establishment to the point where Dr. Kelman was shut out of certain hospitals. It was a bitter struggle, but it ended in personal and professional triumph.
And now this challenge that I had been living with for 9 or 10 years was suddenly gone. I missed it. I missed having a cause, having something tough to do.
With no mountains left to climb in medicine, he decided to return to the scene of his first defeat. At age 45, he put his hard-won professional dignity on the line. The doctor decided to take another shot at show business. Only this time, not as Cary Adams, but as the singing, sax-playing, stand-up comedian, Charlie Kelman. He made the decision just like that, then put himself in a position where he couldn't back out.
I'm in a taxi cab, going back to my office the next day, and I see Carnegie Hall. I said, that's what I'll do. I'll give a concert in Carnegie Hall. So I go to my office manager, and I say, Joe, book Carnegie Hall on a Friday night a year from now. And I worked really hard at it, and when I finally did Carnegie Hall, it was great.
10 years later, he still ranks as one of the world's leading and busiest ophthalmologists. But he's also a veteran nightclub performer who's at home here in Atlantic City's Atlantis Casino Hotel.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Atlantis. You folks here for a good time tonight?
You could say Charlie Kelman's up to his old tricks, driving the medical establishment once more up the wall. Only this time, he's doing it with song and satire. Is this any way for a world-famous surgeon to act? Yes, it is, in Charlie's place.
And now I'm going to give you a sneak look into what goes on inside a hospital. Let's call that hospital Charlie's place. After the visitors leave.
He's back to his old Philadelphia lifestyle. Music by night, medicine by day. But the nightclub's a long way from the operating room. And one day, the distance just got to be too much. He attacked the problem in the typical head-on Kelman style. We'll discover his radical approach to this crisis next on Primetime.
As we go.
Well, one day I was on my way into the city, late for the office as usual, and I was in a traffic jam. I was in a convertible, and I was sweating, and just cursing my fate for having to sit there and wait. And suddenly, over my head, pop, 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 you see this bird flying over. I said, that's where I should be, not down here. I got to the office, I called the heliport, I said, how much time will it take for me to learn to fly? How much does it cost? 1 month later, it was me, into the city.
Naturally, once he began saving all that time by flying between his medicine and his music, his schedule opened up enough for him to write a book, Through My Eyes, the story of a surgeon who dared to take on the medical world. It is also the story of a man who wants to live every day to the utmost. What's that mean? To answer that, Primetime attempted to follow him from dawn to dusk, one beautiful and hectic day in New York City. It is a portrait of life at the top, racing the clock. 6:30 a.m. Start with a jog in the park with a member of the chorus line from the show.
One of the nicest things about New York is early in the morning when no one's around and you can be jogging and nobody bothers you.
Next, it's out of the park and into the limo for a ride to his office in the Empire State Building. He has got a busy schedule ahead of him with 6 cataract operations scheduled for this afternoon.
When I started, they did about 200,000 operations a year. They're up to 1 million now in this country. Yeah. And if you live long enough, you're going to get a cataract. Mm-hmm. It's nature's way of saying, hey, I've seen enough.
The Empire State Building. There you go. A fresh flower in the lapel that no doubt will be wilted by the time that this day is done. Checking on the chopper flight.
Call Doug Stein and tell him that we will be landing there at around, we'll be done here by 9:20, 9:30, around 10 o'clock.
A touch of a button and a laser beam clears up this patient's vision.
This is the little scar we're going to remove with this laser. That scar is just getting in the way of her vision, and she'll see a lot clearer once we open up that little white spot.
Next, it's a quick consultation with his music arranger about an upcoming nightclub appearance.
And then I do this whole thing, usually to spectacular applause.
You hope you play it right.
Then it's out of the office, 9:20, 2 minutes ahead of schedule, heading downtown to where the helicopter is parked. Today, he's on his way to Brunswick Hospital in Long Island, where they're opening up a cataract clinic, and where they want Dr. Kelman to do consulting as well as some surgery.
It's a huge hospital, and apparently one of the most efficient hospitals in the country also, so it'll be an interesting experience to see some of his most modern equipment that he's got out there.
What do you say, Dr. Stein?
In Long Island, he is greeted like visiting royalty and taken on a whirlwind tour of the facility. He's come a long way from the days when he had to beg for some lab space in which to do his research. Back in the air, where the doctor finds time to relax.
The flight out is about 15 minutes back, so you're just saving time all over the place and able to do so much more at a more relaxed pace. I am more relaxed flying this thing than I would be if I were sitting in a car, especially late as usual and sitting in some traffic jams.
He lands this thing on the pad. It's 11:30, and he's heading uptown for a quick talk with his show business agent.
Get me a job, I need to work.
Hey, doctor, how you doing?
How you doing, baby?
Very good.
You've been keeping me awake for 2 nights now.
Yeah,
With that little bomb you dropped on me.
Yeah.
Any chance?
I spoke down with King. He wants to see the tape.
After the meeting, it is back in the limo and uptown for a luncheon meeting.
Nice to see you.
1 p.m. The limo is rolling, and a half-dozen patients are waiting for this man to remove their cataracts and implant lenses to give them back their sight. He works in one operating room as another is being prepared. In less than 2 hours, he has finished his surgery and is heading back uptown for a voice lesson. Up and down the scale. And finally, at 5 o'clock, it is time to head home to the golden fortress of the Trump Towers. Like so many who live in this monument to success, it's been a long, hard drive to the top. But it's had some very special memories.
A young Marine was being honored at the White House. He had lost one eye and could only see light from the other eye. And the president was saying to him, Wayne Hanby, you've given so much for your country. Is there anything I can do for you? And he said, Mr. President, I only have one eye, and it's such a risky operation that no one wants to undertake it because they can't promise anything, and they don't want to lose the sight I have. Can you recommend someone for me to go to? And Wayne Hanby showed up in my office with a letter from the president. When I examined his eye, I was certain that nothing could be done. But at the president's insistence, I operated. And due to some power far greater than my own, Wayne Hanby today sees 2020.
This kind of reward is a result of Charles Kelman's drive to succeed. It is a drive that has also left him with 2 divorces. It is a drive that still nags him at the end of the day with the burning question, what is next? With the evening just beginning and Central Park spread out beneath him and dinner guests due at any minute, Charles Kelman plays a song alone before getting to work on tomorrow.
It's on the side right here.
Now we just enlarge that a little bit to have room to put the implant in.
Dr. Charles Kelman is a man of many talents. He's an accomplished jazz musician and composer, a helicopter pilot,
What's your handicap?
My handicap where, on the golf course or in surgery?
and he's an internationally recognized eye surgeon who developed a widely used technique for cataract removal. But what makes Dr. Kelman most intriguing is that he's always wanted to be an entertainer.
Well now, my business is eye business. I turn on the lights.
So Charlie Kelman put together an act, and one day he hopes to open in Atlantic City.
You know, no matter what I do, I can't get away from medicine. I was downstairs having a bite to eat, and I was just trying to be friendly, and I saw the waitress scratching herself. And I was trying to be friendly. I said, "Miss, do you have hemorrhoids?" She said, "Buddy, just what's on the menu."
When I was 16 years old, my father caught me sneaking out of the house at 2 o'clock in the morning to run away to play with Louis Prima's band. And he took my saxophone away from me and said, "Look," he said, "it's your life. You can do whatever you want. You can be a singer, you can be a composer, you can be a songwriter, you can play with bands. You do whatever you want. It's your life. But first, you'll be a doctor."
A doctor of ophthalmology is what Charlie Kelman became. In the early 60s, he developed phacoemulsification, a procedure by which eye cataracts are removed ultrasonically using a needle vibrating at 40,000 cycles per second. Today, the technique he pioneered accounts for 20% of all cataract surgery and is used worldwide by 1,400 ophthalmologists.
Well, when I studied cataract surgery, patients stayed in the hospital 10 days and then went home and recuperated for a month at home. Now, this patient that I operated on, these patients, they'll be out in the streets this afternoon. They'll be back to work, so it saves an awful lot of time.
Jazz musician Lionel Hampton knew Charlie way back when.
He was a great saxophone player, you know, and he was studying to be a doctor. He played a couple of games with me, you know. That's how good he was, you know.
Later, when Lionel developed cataracts, it was Dr. Kelman he turned to for the operation.
Well, lo and behold, that night I went to play a gig, and there was Charlie playing beside me, playing the saxophone. He had operated on me at 12 o'clock that day.
You fly helicopters.
Out of necessity, because in New York, if you want to be in two places at the same time, that's the only way to do it. It's an incredible time saver. It really gives me the chance to lead two lives.
Charlie commutes from his offices in Manhattan to Lydia Hall Hospital in Freeport, Long Island, to check up on patients he operated on the day before and polish up his bedside manner.
Hello, everybody. Sorry to keep you waiting. What's a young guy like you doing with a cataract? Just lucky, I guess,
Just lucky, yeah.
That's perfect. That's great. Couldn't be better. You can probably see with those glasses already, can't you?
Yes.
Yes? Okay.
Dr. Charles Kelman has certainly found success in medicine. What Charlie Kelman does for his nightclub act is mix medicine with music in hopes of finding another kind of success, keeping the audiences in their seats. In this instance, the audience is other ophthalmologists and some former patients gathered at the Summit Hotel in New York.
And our special consent form, which you doctors may want to copy down, the AMA has now accepted it as a standard in the industry. Our consent form reads, "Don't blame me if after this you don't see. It must be a sport. Don't take me to court. Just don't blame me."
And believe it or not, the good doctors already played Carnegie Hall. It was all part of a charity benefit to raise medical funds.
I was okay. I mean, I was pretty good. I was able to keep the audience in their seats. Of course, I had some pretty good help for the second act. I had Lionel Hampton, I had William B. Williams, I had Jan Pierce, I had Joey Heatherton. So, you know, I kind of rounded out the program a little bit.
Since my racket is eye cataracts, my Cadillac's new.
What drives you? What keeps you going? Why do you need to keep going?
Because for me, I think the voyage is much more exciting than the arrival. And getting somewhere, having a challenge, having some goal that you're working for is stimulating.
Charlie Kelman's doing something that most would envy, living out as many lives as possible. If Atlantic City's ready for a little music and medical humor, Charlie Kelman's ready for the challenge.